Hello friends, welcome back to the Oreaganic podcast. I'm your host Reagan. If you hear a mechanical, rhythmic, routine noise behind me, my washing machine is in fact on and it makes like the weirdest noise, whatever. If you hear that, I'm sorry. If you don't, then you can just disregard the last 20 seconds. I hope everyone is listening. Everyone who's listening is doing well, doing fabulous. Today's episode, not gonna lie guys, I'm feeling a little from the heart today. I'm feeling a little more laid back, more sentimental feelings based, speaking from the heart. And I'm just going to take this episode where it goes because I feel like someone really needs to hear it. Someone really needs to hear the message of how important it is to really just be yourself. This idea of being like your most organic self, your most authentic self, whatever you want to call it, is what I've built my entire brand around. It is the core point of the vision that I have for, the part that I can have in changing the world in terms of reminding people just how important it is and how special and sacred it is to really honor your full truth, your full expression, and to be completely yourself, like free from worrying about other people's judgments or anything else outside of you. Once you release worrying about that, you unlock this level of freedom where I really do feel like it is so powerful, so magnetic. And even think of the people in your life, like people who you may follow, like more the influencer style, not people who are necessarily like super close to you in your life, maybe whatever. But think about people who you really enjoy just like watching or just kind of like being in the energy of. A lot of the times they're really, really expressed and embodied in like their own truth, their own self, and they are not living on anyone else's terms but their own, and they're not apologizing for it. They're not shaming themselves for having a certain way of thinking or self-expression. Like they are just living as themselves, and you can feel that. Like people who watch can feel that. It is so powerful. That's why these people who are on bigger stages or influencers or have a following or whatever, like they often have this common theme of just being so authentic because it speaks to our human nature. It speaks to connection, and it's magnetizing, like without trying. And I'm not saying that to say, all right guys, everyone whip out your phones and go on Instagram stories and we're all going to become influencers now. I'm saying that to show you a real life example of where you've probably interacted with people who are actually living like fully expressed as themselves, and just how powerful it is. It doesn't have to be as an influencer. It can just be who you are living with your friends, with your family, like your close circle. Like you just get to enjoy the world to the maximum potential when you're actually being the most authentic version of yourself. And that's where you feel the most free. But as I've talked about in other episodes and online, like there's so much to get into when it comes to what keeps us from living completely as ourselves, particularly things outside of us, circumstances that aren't necessarily in our control, or just conditioning that we had as children. And these programs in our brain stick with us for literally the rest of our lives without us even realizing it. Your subconscious mind controls like the grand majority of your existence. And when these programs run your life, a lot of the times the programs and the conditioning that you get as a child is not telling you, yes, go be completely 100% yourself. Like, don't ever fear anything, because our conditioning and programming is so thoroughly based in perception, which is really unfortunate because when you're a child, you perceive things very differently. You perceive them through the lens of emotions with minimal context, and it doesn't matter the context, doesn't matter the logic behind your conditioning. The only thing that matters is how it made you feel. And this is where we get into the scope of mindset work, of people talking about somatic therapy and working with the body and emotions and things like that. There's so much deconditioning that needs to happen there on all fronts. Hence what my point, where it's like there's so much I could go into when it comes to very surface level knowledge and basic topics of like the subjects that I have found you really need to dive into to actually understand where your core version of self is so deeply buried. I could go on for hours about every single topic that keeps you from being your most organic self. obviously, that's why I have a podcast. That's why I have multiple episodes. That's why I post on social media. There's a lot I want to talk about and share with the world. Things that I have learned that I'm like, why the fuck is no one else talking about this? Why is no one teaching us about the nervous system, about your subconscious mind, about like basic psychology, basic things that will legitimately run your entire life and keep you living as this watered down version of yourself, like constantly people pleasing, looking for external validation, questioning yourself, outsourcing your sense of safety, and just not living like fully, completely happy as you can be when you actually realize that you can shed a lot of those things, that you're living by stories that aren't even yours. And once you release them, or at least make progress in releasing them, because it's a lifelong thing, we're always growing, whatever. But once you get to a point where you have done like, I hate saying work, because it's like so many people say like do the work on yourself, and I'm not trying to say that, but when you do reach a point where you have felt this sense of liberation from living on other people's terms, you could step out, you can zoom out from the perspective and be like, holy shit, like I wasn't even living for myself. I wasn't even living based on what my heart actually wants, or who I actually am, or what I actually care about, or like any other opinion besides my, like I was living based off of what some loser thought of me, or wanting to please this person, or not wanting to be judged by this, or meet this standard, or make this person happy, whatever. Like we come to find that so much of the ways that you've been living are not actually for you. And I say that not to disempower you guys or make you feel like, oh my God, it's helpless. Especially if this is the first time you're hearing about any of these topics of the subconscious mind, nervous system regulation, whatever, all of that stuff. I'm saying that because I'm telling you there's another side to living the watered down version of life that you may feel like you're living. And the true, real version of you is never gone. Like they're never too far gone. They're never too buried. You're never too lost. You are never too far gone to be able to reclaim the most authentic parts of yourself and fully step into living a version of life where you feel like it's on your own terms, from a place of love and knowing what's best for you and what you want, and trusting yourself and your own intuition. Because we are so much more capable, so much more intelligent than we give ourselves credit for. And like your body, your intuition, you have an internal system built into you that already knows and understands what is best for you. But when we bury this internal compass so deep under so many layers of being like, I can't trust myself, I want to do this, or basically listening to everything outside of you, it takes time to reclaim the deep, authentic core parts of yourself, to hear your intuition again, to hear your own mental space. You know what I'm saying? Like to hear your own internal thoughts and not be running by these programs that don't even belong to you. It takes time, but doing that work, like uncovering what is keeping you from being yourself and really leaning into it, over time, like you will really start to realize like the systems will erode, like the old programs will start to fade away, and like you will feel like you are changing, but you are not changing to become a new person. You are changing to become more of who you already were. It's more a process of shedding than it is completely rebuilding yourself. And it's a process that takes a long time. Like I have been, mentally aware, listening to podcasts, whatever, in this whole space of personal development, whatever you want to call it, self-improvement, mindset work, like blah, 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 for like, I don't know, two-ish years since I've really grown my awareness around it. And it has not been until these past 2 years that I have really felt like I actually had an understanding of like, oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Like why I was living the way that I was. Like before getting into more of the mindset stuff and like understanding all these things I've talked about, I always felt like something was off. I was always very, very busy, and very much so based all of my self-worth off of how productive I was, how good I was at things, like how much I could balance and how much I could do and give and go, and like just very much so the hustle grind culture mode kind of thing. but I always felt like something was off, and I never felt this deep sense of connection to myself. And it wasn't like I was unhappy. It wasn't like I was miserable. I just knew something was off. I knew something was off. Okay, my fucking laundry machine, I swear to God, it's having an absolute rave. I probably shouldn't have started it before this episode, but whatever. My washing machine really started going off just now. Like, it was going absolutely insane. Anyways, it wasn't like I wasn't happy. I had just always known that something was off. And I'm not even trying to say that, like, personal development work saved my life. It completely is the only thing. It's like the magic pill that's going to change your life around. Like, no, nothing is going to actually truly massively radically change your life and stick, like, basically next to nothing, IMHO, that is like going to be sustainable ever, anything. And even me talking about personal development and learning more and understanding my mind more deeply and programming and conditioning from childhood, and like what every single person has, like everyone has this, everyone has childhood conditioning. It doesn't mean your parents are these horrible people. It doesn't mean that like we all are suffering, that we had to endure some terrible traumas to like have experiences that created certain patterns in our brain that then we learned as survival instincts is what creates safety and what shapes our experiences, which can then bleed into the rest of our lives, our relationships, how we treat ourselves, how we see ourselves, like where we base our sense of self-worth from. Pretty much your entire life and self-image is created based off of like what you perceived and understood as how to stay safe and accepted and loved as a child. And like I said before, when you're a child and you are learning the world and you are learning to understand like what gets you love and attention and acceptance, it's only based on your perception as much as you have awareness of as a child. A child. Like, you are a little jit. You are a child. You are a kid. How, like, I don't know, guys. We need to be talking about this more. Hence why I have this show. Hence why we're talking about it right now. But anyways, without going into a whole, like, freaking Carl Jung session of psychology right now, like, your experiences shape the programming that then controls literally the rest of your life until you decide to change it. And that doesn't even mean that you have to have these horrible, unhealthy habits and be like in toxic relationships all the time, or like have these extreme circumstances. Not by any means. You can be living a normal, happy, healthy life and still also know that something's off, and that you probably, like, there's more out there for you. There's better out there for you, and you want to experience life to the fullest extent with like the most amount of freedom and expression and peace and just like brightness to it. You can't do that unless you really dive deep into the systems that run your mind and your brain in the first place, and how it buries the true authentic version of yourself. Back to my point, being 100% yourself. When you're a kid, are you worried about like a kid, like before the age of middle school when children turn semi-evil? Not actually. I've worked with middle schoolers before. They're not evil. It just makes me laugh. I think everyone knows what I mean. But anyways, when you are just like an innocent kid, that is like the most authentic expression of yourself that you have. Like, it's pure life force running through you. It is you just being completely yourself. You're not thinking about what Sally down the street thinks about like your, I don't know, pink starry shirt, or like you're not thinking about all these external worries. You are just being yourself, and you feel so alive and just like enthralled by the world. But like that version of you, that inner child version of you still exists within you. It's like still a reflective mirror of like your most authentic self, obviously on a much different scale because you're younger and you haven't had as much life experience, whatever. But you get the point. Like, we all have this within us, and I'm saying that to make you understand that it never goes anywhere. Like, the authenticity, that life force, the childlike energy inside of you that is enthralled with life and creativity and just wants to like live and exist in happiness, they never go away. They're never gone. It's not like you delete your childhood self. Like, your childhood self just gets buried. It gets buried by the experiences that your ego learns and programs and makes you understand, this is what I need to do to be safe. This is what I need to do to be loved. In order for me to get attention, I need to get good grades, be well accomplished, like not make people upset, not be too much work, not get people in trouble, like whatever, insert whatever thing. And you learn all of this stuff, your ego starts to really form and take place and kind of like learn what you need to think, believe about yourself and about the world in order to stay safe and to keep your childhood self protected. Like that's where the ego comes in. It's kind of like a shield around the child. I wasn't expecting to talk about this, but we'll keep going into it. And your ego, learning all of this, is very much tied in with your primal brain, your survival instincts brain, and your subconscious mind. Your brain does not give a fuck if you're happy. Like your brain only cares that you are safe on a very primal setting. Doesn't care that you're happy, doesn't care that you are like in the best possible circumstances of your life. It only cares that you're safe. And it learns what is safe based on what is familiar. What is familiar is based on the experiences that you have often growing up in childhood in certain circumstances. Like this is how we get into unhealthy patterning, unhealthy patterns and programming. And again, this shapes like the rest of your life. And this is where your authentic self gets buried under a bunch of layers of other people's shit, other people's stories, society's lessons, society's words to you saying that the only way you can be successful is if you work a 9-to-5 job until you are 65 and then just go live for 5 years and die. Like that's an example of an external system, an external program that gets layered on top of you that doesn't actually belong to you, but can very much so be like the basis for what you think you need to do in order to be successful. But obviously, when I say that, it's very easy from an outside perspective to say like, that's kind of fucking bullshit. Like, I don't believe that. And it's easy to kind of write that off and ignore it because you know it's not true to you. But until you bring awareness to these external stories running your life, until you actually name them and mark them and maybe not necessarily deeply understand them, because you can also over-intellectualize things, but truly when you do start to understand them and you logically talk your brain through the fact that like that doesn't belong to you, that story's not yours, that's like the first step to actually freeing yourself. Truly. And then the process takes a long time and it's a lifelong thing still, just like growth and everything, because there's always going to be more layers and more depth to things. But the more you start to uncover what stories and what programming you have that you don't actually believe, that doesn't actually belong to you, the more and more you get to step into your most authentic version of self, because you actually understand and realize that like so much of what you thought was just like how you thought about things or who you were isn't actually you. It's just external programming that's been stacked like shit upon your actual true authentic self. And the only reason that you've held on to it for so long is because your freaking primal brain thinks that in order to survive, you have to keep what's familiar. But it, again, takes a level of understanding of the mindset work and the subconscious mind and psychological programming and conditioning in order to get to this point of awareness where you can even understand that. But once you do, it's like a whole freaking new world is opened up to you, and you start to actually realize what it takes for you to become your most authentic self. And a big part of this and like deepening this connection to yourself and this relationship with yourself is to actually build a relationship with yourself. I will be so honest with you guys, like vulnerably speaking here. My relationship with myself and my sense of self-worth and self-love and all of that kind of stuff, that is like probably the biggest area of mine where I struggle, where I'm lacking. Like showing myself true, genuine compassion, love, like unconditional love, and being kind to myself is something that I'm not exactly skilled in. Not exactly going to be an Olympian in self-love anytime soon. And it has been one of my like weaker points. And it's really been coming up lately, honestly. Maybe that's why I'm feeling a sense of heartfeltness tonight. If you notice, I haven't even put in my intro. Like, I think I'm just going to full send rip this episode because whatever. I'm just feeling like what we need right now is just a yap without a musical interruption at the beginning. But anyways, my relationship with self. Ooh. It's felt hard. It felt hard because as we talked about with programming and conditioning and whatever, and let me say again, with a reminder of like childhood conditioning and programming, like this is zero ill to my parents, and I don't think that anyone should truly feel this like deep life. Okay, obviously take it to your own context. There are people who are truly evil, like you understand what I'm saying, but for most people, I would like to think that you really shouldn't hold on to these grudges towards your parents for the ways that they raised you for so long, and like have it impact your life and become basically part of your identity, that like, oh, like I don't even know, like if you think your dad was annoying or rude or whatever, like if you let that run your life, you just give so much more power to a situation that like you really don't need to give so much of your energy to, because as I said, believe it or not, your parents had parents too, who also probably didn't show up for them the ways that they needed, if that's the case for you too, or your parents let you down, or you had certain programming and conditioning that you are, kind of bitter about now, and it just makes you annoyed. It makes you want to be like an asshole to them. Don't cling on to that so much. Like, I have zero ill whatever towards my parents for any kind of like programming, conditioning, whatever that I talk about that I have to work through, because like everyone is just trying to do their best at all times, and like your parents could only give you as much as their parents gave them, who could only give them as much as their parents gave them, so on and so forth. This is how we get to generational trauma. But just saying that as a preface, as like anything that I say right now about like my self-worth complex and whatever has nothing to do with like a deep, misunderstanding with my parents. Like I have zero ill will, and I just want to make that clear, especially as someone like speaking publicly on this stuff. I don't know, whatever, personal thing. Anyways, don't hold a grudge against your parents for the rest of your life. It's not worth it, and they're people too. Moving on, I very much so base like my whole sense of self-worth off of how good I was at things. As I said before, like how productive I was, doing my homework, following the successful path, doing the right thing, picking a good major, like blah, 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 blah. And I was one of those kids who was kind of just like good at everything, not to be an asshole. Like I was good in school, I was good at band, I was very good at sports. It came very naturally to me. Like I was just a very well-rounded kid, like very well-rounded kid. And this became part of like my identity to be, the well-rounded person who's getting all the good grades and doing all the things and being so successful, whatever. And like, therefore, my whole sense of self-worth was based around my productivity and how much I did. And if I didn't do well at something, then that meant that like my whole self-image, my identity, how other people saw me was in jeopardy. So if I ever like didn't do well on a test, or like fucked up in a game, or whatever I want to say, like played badly at a concert, I like literally would feel like such a sense of deep self-hatred, like genuine deep self-hatred. And it really is not until, like, I'm not joking, guys, the past like couple of months that I have really started to feel what it is like to show myself genuine love and care and nurturing. And it's actually wild. It's actually wild, because you know how I was talking about your ego and your inner child before? When you grow into an adult, when you are no longer a wee little lad or lass, and you are a grown, functioning adult human, you are not like whatever may have happened to you in the past is not your fault. Unfortunately, however, it is your responsibility to deal with and conquer your circumstances to make them better for yourself. Like, you are the only one who can kind of quote unquote save yourself or change your circumstances. Like, no one's coming in to do it for you. And a big part of this is what other people call reparenting yourself. Because like I said, the little child inside of you, the one with like the creativity, who's most authentically aligned with like your most true version of yourself, they're still there. Like, they're still chilling in there. They're honestly the base of your emotional being. So if you are someone, especially like me, who hasn't always been super tapped into your emotions, you and your inner child may not have like, the closest of relationships. And where I bring in the reparenting in your inner child is that when you grow older, fostering a sense of self-love is like basically you becoming the parent that like your inner child needed back when you were a kid, in circumstances where you are feeling emotional or vulnerable or just going through a lot or whatever. Like, you basically need to become your own parent. Now my washing machine is singing. What a cute little tune. But you have to become your own parent and like nurture yourself. It's like a really weird paradox, because it's like all of these voices exist in your brain at once, like your ego, your inner child, and what people will call, like, I don't know, your higher self, your best self, whatever you want to call it. I don't fucking care. Your soul self, don't care. But there is a higher version of you, a wiser, higher version of you, who like has the wider perspective and understands this and is always kind of guiding you and like the source of your intuition, whatever. Anyways, but you have all these voices within you who are all kind of like speaking at once sometimes. And I'm not saying this in like a freaking schizophrenic way, okay? No one get their freaking pants in a twist here. But like you have this it's so weird, because it's like you're aware of it. This is what it is. The higher self, the higher mind is just the awareness behind your thoughts and your brain. And the fact that like you have an inner child and an ego. It's like the higher awareness behind all of it, but you are also simultaneously feeling like the same emotions of your inner child and your ego while also being aware of it. Like, I don't know how to explain this. If you're getting it, I hope you are. It's just kind of trippy. But you can reparent yourself. And when you reparent yourself, that is you showing yourself like the highest form of self-love that you possibly could. Because you are telling your inner child, who might feel like me, like her worth is only based off of how much she does. Like, when I sit with myself and talk through in my brain out loud, whatever, that like I don't need to be constantly doing something in order to be like have a sense of worth. When you talk yourself through these things, like you actually show yourself the greatest form of self-love that you really need to hear from an emotional perspective, like on the inside. And it can be hard to do that. And again, this is something I'm still learning. Like, I am not an expert at this, guys. This is a very from the heart episode. I'm just talking. But that's really where the secret sauce is where the key lies when it comes to building a relationship with yourself in terms of self-love and showing up for yourself, building self-confidence, building self-trust. It really just comes from actually showing up for yourself, like doing what you say you're going to do. Because if you feel like you can't trust yourself, then how do you feel like you're going to be able to change anything in your life efficiently? When you have a deep sense of self-trust and you know that like you're going to do what you say you're going to do, like you are much more likely to be able to stay following up on things, not procrastinating, like actually moving forwards and achieving the things you want to achieve, because the inside parts of you, like the inner child, the inner voice inside of you, knows that like it can rely on you and you are a trustworthy person to listen to. Like, it gets all of these inner voices and energies inside of you like on board with the same thing and on the same page, which allows you to move forward in life a lot easier. So I feel like I've talked about a lot of miscellaneous things, very not random, but just miscellaneous, all under the umbrella of like why you may not be living as your most authentic self and how to actually understand how to get there a little bit, at least from my experience. But what I really, really, really just want to bring it back to is the fact that like your biggest contribution to the world starts with you being completely 100% your most authentic, organic self. Truly. Like, the best thing that you could do to make the world better is to be 100% unapologetically yourself from a place of love and wanting to just live life to the fullest and like be like honor yourself in that way and show yourself the respect of like being completely unapologetically you, not living on anyone else's terms to please anyone else, to fit into a system that doesn't fit you. Like I said before, Everyone has their own sense of intuition. Yes, some people's sense is more buried than others, but we all have it. And with this, we know and understand. We already know what's best for us. You know what you want to do. You know what's best for you. You know the lifestyle that you want to live, the beliefs you want to have. Like, even if you're telling me, no, I really don't know, I don't understand, like, I promise you, part of you does. It's just buried. And if there's any way to understand being more of yourself and coming back into your most authentic version of self, it is through understanding the stories and programs and mindsets that have made you feel unsafe to be completely yourself in the first place, and have made you live life based on other people's terms and not your own, which starts with a lot of shadow work, if you want to call it that, subconscious reprogramming, understanding your brain, understanding the mind, allowing yourself to feel through your emotions, being present with your emotions, being present with yourself, and just showing yourself true, deep, unconditional compassion and self-love. Like, if you start looking into these things more deeply, or implementing some of the practices and just habits that I told you guys about, like in terms of the reparenting, things like that, I promise you, over time, like, it's not going to happen overnight, but even just having this intention and this kind of North Star understanding of how to get back to that most authentic version of yourself, if you have that, I promise you, your life is going to get infinitely better within, like, maybe, yes, a short amount of time, but like, the longer you keep at it, like, the better it's going to be. And the more freely you're going to live for yourself, and the more aligned you're going to feel to the life that you know you have always been meant to live. So I'm going to leave it at that. I really, 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 really want you guys, like, truly, I know it's my outro, but seriously, go be your most organic selves. Like, be yourself. Don't give a fuck what other people what other people think of you. If you're worrying a lot about people pleasing or other people's expectations of you, or just wanting to live by, like, other people's, or worrying about other people's judgments, I have episodes on this. I think just search through my podcast. There's at least one episode of me talking about external opinions and judgments and why you shouldn't care about them and what they actually mean. But beyond that, like, beyond just my podcast, there are so many resources to look into and ways to uncover more of this information that really does unlock a different understanding of yourself and the world for the better. And I encourage you guys to lean into them if you're feeling called. I want you to go be your most organic self, so much so to the point where the people who are not meant to be with you in your life, the people who are not meant to appreciate you, literally get flung away across the motherfucking universe. Like, I want you to be so annoyingly yourself that, like, the people who judge you, who have a problem with it, who are made insecure by it, are, like, just so naturally repelled that they are flung across the fucking space-time continuum. That is what I wish for you. So, with that said, hope you all are doing well. Go take care of yourselves. Go be your most organic selves, and I will see you in the next one.